Hello everyone. Today's Thursday, right? Thursday. Thank you for joining us over your lunch hour today for our second virtual lunch and learn of 2021. So briefly, we started this format last year around the time of when the pandemic started, and everyone was having to stay inside. I know many of you who are freelancers, it's nothing new to you to be working remotely. But that situation kind of, forced us to rethink how we do our events. And so we dived, deeper into doing these kind of online formats. And as, a CodeControl community, one of our big goals is to facilitate these opportunities for knowledge exchange and peer exchange and collaboration. And so we are inviting all the time members from our community who want to share anything about their expert insights or maybe their skills or their knowledge with other members of the community. And of course, since the beginning of this year, we've also opened it up more to the public. So what used to be an internal only event is now open to anyone really who's interested. First of all, hello to everyone who is in the community, and a special hello to everyone who is not a part of the community and hopefully found us online through our promotion efforts. So with that said, I would like to introduce, of course, our speaker today, Jörg Sawatzki. So Jörg, you've been a member since, I believe, mid-2020. And as you said, you initially started as a developer, now he's going more into the product management side. Jörg, I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Logan. Thank you, CodeControl, for the opportunity and the invitation to give a talk here at the virtual Lunch and Learn. Today I'm trying to give you a brief overview over digital product management, how you can build products that your users really want. Of course, we cannot really, in this format, we cannot really dive into much detail, but I'm trying to give you a very holistic perspective of product management and give you ideas and inspiration that will motivate you to do some further research and look up something, read some more on these topics and find your way through it. So yeah, my name is Jörg. I'm currently a product manager at IUBH, University of Applied Sciences. That's one of the largest universities in Germany, and we have specialized on online studies. So you can do your bachelor, your master, your MBA at our university completely from home. You don't have to leave your desk. Everything is 100% online. And I'm working there as a product manager for digital learning and artificial intelligence. And I'm trying to optimize our learning tools because as I said, we are online 100%. We need to provide a very great learning experience, a very great e-learning experience to our students. And I'm building apps and tools and products to support our students in learning. And I'm trying, and that's a little bit my focus, artificial intelligence. I'm trying to find out how we can use artificial intelligence in our products to support the students and make learning even easier and greater for them, for example, by analyzing how they learn, suggesting them the right content to learn, suggesting them the right partners to learn, the right schedule, and so on. So that's my background. In general, I have to admit that I have more experience as a full stack developer than as a product manager. So this area is quite new for me as well. I have been a freelance software developer full stack for 13 years. And now I'm in product management for about a year now. Yeah, and I'm happy to share some insights and some of this experience with you fellow developers and consultants and product managers and product managers. So let's get started. So first of all, let's find out what a product manager does. A product manager is not a project manager, by the way. What we as a product manager do is we are at this sweet spot here in the middle of this Venn diagram. So it's a very interdisciplinary role that consists of three areas: desirability, viability, and feasibility. Let's start with desirability. That's basically our users. What do our users want? How do they experience our product? Do they like our ideas, and so on? Viability is the business part of things. So, I mean, you don't build digital products just for fun. You want to create a business model out of it. You want to make money with it, get revenue. So that's the viability part, and that's the last part here of this triangle is the feasibility, and that's my strongest part because I have this developer background. So feasibility is the technical part of the product. I mean, if you have a great app that uses artificial intelligence to, I don't know, fake Barack Obama and whatever, then you find out that it's technically not feasible. You don't know how to implement it, or there's just, I don't know, the mobile phone doesn't have enough GPU power to execute your AI models or whatever. That would mean it's not feasible from a technical point of view. Yeah, then your product doesn't make any sense, even if the other points are validated. So these are these three areas. The most important area, and hence the area you should always start with, is the desirability area. So what the user really wants, because that's really the most important thing. If your users don't want your product, it doesn't matter if you can make money out of it, because nobody will use it, and it doesn't matter if it's feasible or not, if your users don't accept it and don't buy it. So first of all, always focus on the user and then evaluate the other two parts. So maybe you know the story. You're building products and nobody uses them. I have displayed two problems here that are somehow related. Let's start with the product death cycle here on the left. That is something David Bland came up. He's an author and entrepreneur. You can check him on Amazon. He has quite some nice books about in this area of product management, business model generation, and so on. And he came up with this product death cycle. And basically the idea is to describe this, what probably all of you have already experienced. No one uses your products and you think, oh, damn, no one uses it. What can we do? Yeah, you ask your customers, hey, why don't you use it? What is missing? And they say, okay, yeah, I would use it if you add feature A and feature B. And then you build the missing features, you add feature A and B, and then still nobody uses it. And you're back here asking again, what's wrong with it? Feature C and D, and you get the story. Closely related to this problem is the yellow Walkman problem here on the right. That's basically a legend. Every product manager knows, but nobody's really sure if it's really true, but that doesn't really matter. Sony had the idea of developing this yellow Walkman. Maybe some of you still remember the times of Walkmans. And they invited some people to the building and did a focus group thing and said, okay, come to our workshop. We are introducing a new product and we want to know your opinion. And you get a reward of, I don't know, $50 for taking part in this workshop. And in this workshop, they presented this idea and everybody said, wow, great. I would buy a yellow Walkman. It's super great. And no, I didn't like the black one. I would always buy the yellow one. Yeah, and then everybody walked out of the building. Everyone got their $50, and at the doorstep there was a table with Walkmans on it, black ones and yellow ones. And as a little thank you, every participant was allowed to take one of these Walkmans home for free. And even though they all said they will take the yellow one, everybody took the black ones. So be Yeah, listen to your users, but keep that in mind that users often don't really know what they want, um, and they often don't do what they say. Um, in this yellow Walkman example, I believe there are two reasons why this happens. One reason is they want the money. They want their $50 and get rid of it. They don't want to discuss why they don't like the yellow Walkman. So it's easier to just say, yeah, great idea, I will buy the yellow Walkman. And the second reason is they want to be polite, because there were Sony's engineers presenting this, hey, we've got this great yellow Walkman, and of course you don't want to disappoint people and say, oh yeah, I know you put so much effort in it, but I don't like it. So people are usually polite, and if they see it's your little baby what you are building and you're really enthusiastic about it, they don't want to disappoint you. So users, if you ask them, do you want this product, no matter what it is, they will always say yes, because they want to be polite with you and not disappoint you. So keep that in mind. So now let's first of all look at the reasons why people don't use your product. And it's important to separate this between motivation and ability. This is the Fogg behavior model. BJ Fogg is a Stanford professor teaching and researching on behavior. And he came up with this model. You can also check out his website. And basically, the idea is if somebody does something or does not do something, it depends on these two components. On the one hand, motivation, and on the other hand, usability or ability. So if you have a product and nobody uses it, it can have several reasons. For example, if it's really hard to do, then we are somewhere here on the graph. So if they should use it, and if your trigger succeeds or your prompt succeeds, and they will get into your product, they need to have a really high motivation to come over this action line. Only if they come over the action line, the trigger will succeed. So it's super hard to do. Your user experience is really crappy, but they are super motivated and they will get over the action line. On the other hand, if you have a product that's super easy to use, you're somewhere here, and only if you have some little motivation, you already get over the action line here and get your users triggered. So always keep in mind these two components and that they influence each other. And if you're testing product ideas, you need to find a way to separate these components. Yeah, this is basically the core of this talk, the lean startup approach. The idea is this to introduce a culture of experimentation in your company or in your startup, and go through this cycle very quickly, building MVPs, most viable products, doing experiments on the ideas you have. Don't coding, just put them quickly, just find quick and dirty solutions to show your customers what you have and test it with your customers. Define metrics here in the measure phase of the cycle, define metrics and learn what your users are doing, and then decide if your hypothesis is valid or not, and then design the next MVP, the next experiment, go through the cycle again and again, and iteratively build more and more features into your product, and in the end build a mature and customer validated product. So the most important thing here to remember is that you start with building, then measuring, then learn. It's also called the build, measure, learn cycle. And we're quickly diving into it right now. We start with the build phase, and I will show you some different kinds of experiments, MVP experiments. So let's start with the Wizard of Oz experiment. Here in this example, it's something that Ford has done. They wanted to find out how self-driving cars are accepted by users, what challenges they have in the traffic, and how people try to communicate with the car and so on. And instead of taking all this engineering work and putting a lot of cost and money and effort into it to build a self-driving car, they just did an MVP like this. They just, you see here on the photo, there's a man driving this car, and the man has a suit that looks like a car seat. And so from the outside, it looks like a self-driving car, but it's all faked. And that's the Wizard of Oz MVP experiment. Just fake it before you make it and see how your customers react. The second type is the Concierge MVP here at Zappos. Maybe some, if you don't know Zappos, basically the US version of Zalando, an online shop that sells shoes. And at that time, you see this retro website here. Today we all know, yes, of course, buying shoes online is pretty normal, but at that time they didn't know if it's a business, if it makes sense, if anybody wants to order shoes online. And instead of building the complete platform and the complete infrastructure and maybe wasting a lot of money because they would find out it doesn't work, you know, it worked, but they just did a Concierge MVP. That means they carry out the experience by hand. They don't have any automation. They only serve a small customer group. So what they did at Zappos was they just went to the next local shoe store and asked if they could take some photos of some shoes there. And then they put together a very quick and dirty website and presented these shoes and sold them online and saw if somebody wants to buy them, and people bought them. And then they just manually went back to the shop, bought the shoes there, put them in a package and sent them out. So that doesn't really scale and it doesn't really automate, but that gives you a learning that your basic value proposition or your product idea is something that could be right and that could be a business model. The third type, I have to move away my zoom here, otherwise I cannot see the third type. Sales MVP is, yeah, I would say one of the easiest MVPs that you can put together in a couple of hours, often using landing pages and sign-up forms. In the example here, we have a company called Buffer. That's basically a product where you can buffer up your social media posts and schedule them and say, okay, tomorrow at 12 o'clock, post this on Twitter and post that on, I don't know, Facebook. And basically what they have done before building this product, they just created this landing pages here with these bullet points, 1, 2, 3, describing the experience, describing the steps. And then they have got this call to action button here, plans and pricing. And if they're certainly measuring how many page visitors are clicking on this, and then you get redirected to this here. And then it says, oops, we are not ready yet. We haven't really built this. And then you can leave your email here to get some more updates. So you can sell things before you build them actually, and it's done very often. And sometimes you could also, if you're selling something for a price, you could also just add a buy now button and for $10 or whatever, and experiment with different prices and see how the click-through performs there. So that's the three main types of MVPs. There are others, of course, but these are the most important ones you should know. Now let's go one step further from the build to the measure phase. If my presentation, yeah. Okay, so that goes into the direction of lean analytics. I will just quickly give you an idea about what this is. So you work with metrics that you can really measure, and sometimes, especially the business people, call them key performance indicators, KPIs. what kind of metrics do we have? For example, click-through rate. You have people on a landing page and there's a button buy now or get more info, and you measure the percentage of people who visit versus the people who clicked on the button. If you're doing an email MVP, you can measure how many, maybe you do different experiments, one with this subject line and one with another subject, and then measure how many of the guys opened that email. If you're working with a video MVP, for example, Dropbox did that because building Dropbox is super complicated. So they just faked everything and put it on a video, and it looked like Dropbox was already working, but it was all fake. And they did this video MVP that you can measure the view times. When do they drop out? How long do they watch your video actually? The number of signups for a beta version. You don't have to have this beta version, it doesn't matter. You just want to measure the interest, number of fake purchases. You could even ask them for the credit card number to get some stronger indicator for their motivation, but be a bit cautious about this. Yeah, in general, the conversion rate, that's basically what I just explained, with number of signups, number of fake purchases. So conversion is if somebody converts from one row to the other. So they are just page visitors at the beginning, and in the end, they are customers or beta tester or whatever. So that's the core conversion rate. Net Promoter Score is another metric that some companies or a lot of companies uses. That's basically a quick survey where you just say, hey, would you recommend our product to your friends? And then you answer on a scale from 1 to 10 or something, and then you get this metric as well. And if you have a longer running experiment like a Concierge MVP and you run it over 3 months or so, then you could do a Net Promoter Score survey at the beginning, and maybe one after 30 days and one in the end, and see how the customer satisfaction changes with this experiment. So just some ideas about metrics. The most important point is that metrics must be actionable. There are so-called vanity metrics that look nice, like, oh, we had 1 million page visitors today, but that doesn't give you any learning, and that doesn't help you deciding anything and to come to an action. So always try to find actionable metrics, try to find relative metrics, how many % of the visitors did this or did that, and then compare it. So you have a learning and can make a validated decision, data-driven decision. So decisions basically, or the learning phase of the lean startup cycle, you have qualitative learning and you have quantitative learning. Qualitative learning is more in the customer discovery phase, where you explore who your customer is. Quantitative learning is more often used in the customer validation phase, where you have an idea what your customer wants, and you just need to want to validate that your idea or your hypothesis is true. Here are some questions that are connected to customer discovery or qualitative learning and customer validation. Quantitative learning, what makes your, to go to the qualitative side here first, customer discovery, what makes your users tick? What jobs do they need to get done? What problems do they have? What do they need to fix in their life? How are they interacting with your products? How do they feel when they use your product? And on the quantitative learning side here, on the customer validation, where we already have our idea and want to validate it, is our hypothesis correct? How can we measure it? What thresholds do we have? Like, do we expect 10% to click on this button, or do we need to have, I don't know, 20% in order to say our hypothesis is valid or not? And what do we do if our hypothesis is valid or invalid? What are our next steps? How do we go on from this point? It's a good idea to think about these points in advance, not while you're running the experiment, because then you will have lots of other things to do, and make up your mind in advance and decide what thresholds you expect and what you will do if the experiment succeeds or fails. That's it, basically. Quick introduction to digital product management. The takeaways. What users say is usually not what they want. You have seen that in the product death cycle and the yellow Walkman problem. Try to always separate motivation and usability. That will help you getting the clear picture. Use the build, measure, learn cycle to reduce waste and speed up development iteratively in small feedback loops. Make your decision based on data, based on validated learning, and not on vague assumptions or on your ego. And be brave and play around. Failing is part of the business. Fail fast, fail often. You know that 9 out of 10 ideas fail. So try to find as many ideas as you can and try to test them as quickly as possible in order to find the one idea out of 10 that really works, and then focus on that and iteratively play around with it and build your product. That's it from my side. I would be happy to hear from you, and I'd be happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to hear your feedback to this presentation, hear some questions, or especially hear your experience as a product manager. Maybe you already using the lean startup approach or a hypothesis-driven development. It's your stage now, guys.